Welcome to Inside Image, presented by Seismic Sound Off. I'm your host, Andrew Gary. On Tuesday, AAPG and SEG recognized some of the people who have made lasting contributions to the profession. I sat down with two of them, Tom Ewing and Mike Forrest, before the honors and awards ceremonies. Tom is receiving AAPG's Sidney Powers Memorial Award, and Mike is receiving SEG honorary membership. What stood out was how little either of them talked about awards as an endpoint. They talked about curiosity, fun, saying yes, publishing useful work, mentoring students, and continuing to learn even after decades in the profession. And that may be the best way to understand what these honors are really recognizing. Let's join the discussion.
Mike and Tom, I appreciate you joining me for Inside Image here, presented by Seismic Sound Off. Dr. Ewing, Tom, you are about to receive the Sidney Powers Memorial Award tonight. Mike, you received that in 2018, but you're here for SEG's honorary membership, SEG's second highest award, which is why you're here. I think, to me, this is the shining light of professional associations, these honors and awards. I think they're really important. I think it's nice to have something as a member to look up to and say, I want to do that one day. So we'll start with you, Tom. When you kind of look across your career, what contribution or period of work do you think most shaped that reputation that led to this recognition tonight?
I've had a long and sort of unusual career, I guess I would say. Started after my doctorate at the Bureau of Economic Geology and then went on as a consultant after about 4 years. I don't recommend that, but it worked for us and fell in with some very, very fine folks and moved along. So it's been an ongoing thing. I guess the biggest thing is I've been publishing consistently since 1982, I guess. Really still at the Bureau, which is what they do, but even after I was off in consulting and working with an exploration group, we were writing papers on trend and some field studies and all of that. So really starting to give back to the community, things that were useful for people, and I think that's kind of the biggest thing, is I'm kind of the guy that makes a pretty map that everybody can put their prospect on.
Useful, practical, those are very good words to...
And hopefully true.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think the award tonight is kind of symbolic and signals that it is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mike, for you, when you have a long career, you've had so many awards, not only the Sidney Powers Award, you won the Craig J. Beasley Social Contribution Award recently as well. And we're talking, Tom and I, before this, that honorary membership was something that was important to him. He believed he earned it after all his years in service to AAPG, and that's what you're getting awarded tonight. How do you feel about that particular award in this kind of resume of the awards you've received in your career?
Well, it's the number 2 award in SEG, so therefore it's a big honor. And they only give one award now. There's one honorary membership award every year, so that's a real compliment. But I started on a seismic crew many years ago, and then I went to Shell and learned seismic interpretation. And basically, that's been my life, is seismic interpretation. I love looking at seismic data, and that's where the amplitude studies, amplitude work came out of the seismic data, and I'm still involved now with students. Evolve program, SEG Evolve program, where basically we give the students seismic data sets. You remember this when you were there?
Yes.
And so it's like a passion. I could spend hours and days just trying to look at seismic and trying to find leads. I'm in the economic mode. I got to find leads and prospects. So that's been my whole life, I guess. And of course, Shell Oil made a big difference in my life. I was there for 37 years.
Yeah. Speaking of learning, a geoscience career doesn't rarely unfold in a nice A to B to C kind of way. There's plan C, there's plan D, there's plan Z that come on up. We'll start with Tom and then go to Mike. When you look back at your career, do you think there was a moment, was there a mindset realization you had where you really feel like you started to become the geoscientist you wanted to be?
Very interesting question. I've had several saltations, if you will, leaps in my career. And one was from being a Cordilleran surface-based tectonics, geoscience, volcanology guy into Texas subsurface with the Bureau of Economic Geology. That was back in 1980, Lord knows. And some of the great people that kind of retreaded me into both geophysics and well logs and all that good stuff. That was really the first big transition. The second one is really becoming consultant and working in industry. And I've realized some gifts in terms of regional context, regional understanding, which a lot of people have trouble or don't have time to do, really, primarily, or have some trouble kind of putting together. I had some experience in that. And also that kind of material and really being of service, both through the professional societies and the local societies and meetings, ultimately working on the book, Texas Through Time, with the Bureau of Economic Geology. And that was a good fit in terms of the kinds of things that I've been strong at. And we try to give back through those publications.
What rings true for you, Mike?
Well, I started on a seismic crew, and way back in the 50s, by the way. And the big change in my life is when they changed me to, Shell moved me to the offshore division. And we had hundreds of miles of 2D, of course, seismic data on a mile spacing. And I learned the Gulf of Mexico geology. By the way, everything is, geology and geophysics are like one. You have to have an understanding of the geology before you can make interpretations, but then the interpretations give you more information about the geology. And so I learned that in the early 60s when I was with Shell offshore. So lease sales, we have these bid rounds and lease sales. So that was the big change in my life. And I always compliment the guy who I work for. He's since passed away, a guy named B.B. Houston. Thank you for moving me to offshore division in 1960s, because it changed my whole career.
How have the two of you? There's almost like a lightness to the two of you. You have been doing this a long time. You're still coming to Image. You're still excited about, I mean, Mike, you went from 2 to 5 evolved teams. Like, there's still just such a interest and curiosity about this field, even though you don't have to be doing all the things you're doing, but you're excited about it. I mean, what would you share with other people coming on up in this career who maybe are in like a low spot? They're not sure what they're going to do next. They're like, just a little wondering, how have you just kept this passion and excitement for the field?
Oh, that's a big point. I've always been passionate about the science and feel very strongly about that we are members of a professional community, that we are professional geoscientists, and that we really have a calling to do what we do. We've been trained highly by society and by our people around us, and we've had experiences, and we need to share that for the good of all men, really. And through publications, through the work that we do, finding oil and gas, whatever it takes, all those things are valid ways to give back. So I find passion, and these days I have enough financial security, I should say, from a couple of successes that I can choose my clients, and I can choose to work on my own things sometimes. And I have things I can work on that don't require huge budgets, but that are very useful to people and are very interesting scientifically. I mean, they're actually pure science questions even that you can get back to. And I was kind of equipped to do that. So it's been very great. I don't intend to stop anytime real soon, God willing.
I think it has to be fun. Fun's when you do your work and you're happy in your work, it's just fun, inspiring, and you can just work on it for many hours. You don't realize the time has passed so quickly. And that means you love what you do. And by the way, some of it's just natural. You don't realize that you're so deeply involved and engrossed with the data, and all of a sudden you look at, oh my gosh, it's 12 midnight. What have I been doing all day?
Exactly.
And so that I think that's what keeps you going, and it's kind of an interior benefit or something that just comes out, when you like what you're doing. And by the way, that's what I tell our SEG Evolve students. We tell you, have fun in your work. Have fun in your work. You want it. You want to leave your work day feeling like you accomplished something, but also had fun.
Amen.
How have the two of you, you're both involved in the respective foundations of your professional societies, AAPG and SEG, so your work is going well beyond technical work. You're into service, you're into mentoring, both of you. How has that kind of factored into how you think about your career, that aspect of more charitable work versus just the technical work that you clearly both love?
Well, I've been active in societies really since, I came to San Antonio in 1984, really even before that, actually, 1980 and so on in Austin and then San Antonio. Local societies started me on professional service, and then I moved up into our section, Gulf Coast section in that area, other sections later, and then to the national level. And so I've been able to serve in a variety of capacities and a variety of things, work on meetings, all that kind of thing, run field trips. But I think it's been vital, both for obviously making friends and contacts, and that's wonderful, and for really my own professional growth. And again, it's a way to really give back to the profession and move us on forward.
What about you, Mike?
I don't know what triggers me sometimes to be so involved. I'm associated with both the AAPG Foundation and the SEG Foundation. In fact, the AAPG just had a trip up to Banff, Canada in June. Sometimes I don't know. It's just something interior. I remember Geophysical Society years ago, New Orleans. A friend came to me and said, would you help us start a monthly magazine? For sure. So I was a high school editor. I said, yeah, I'll help. I jumped right in. But it just happens. It's just impulsive sometimes. I want to help. And it's unusual.
Some of us don't know how to say no. I suspect you're in the same lane,
You're
Mike.
Right. You're right.
So, and it's good to not say no too soon on some things. I mean, you have to judge these things, obviously. You don't want to say yes to absolutely everything somebody comes up with, but it's good to say yes. That's how you grow. And the more you give, the more you get back, honestly.
That's correct.
Trite, but true.
That's correct.
I attended a women's network, the SEG Women's Network put on a panel of technical leadership, and one of the women mentioned how her boss had resigned and she got offered the job and she said no. And another person on the panel was like, I would have never done that. I would have said yes. So, sometimes different points in your career, another thing someone said is people think differently. They don't all think like you do. So it seems like you both have fit in, like you figured out how you think and managed to make a career work out of it. Mike, you have something to say?
There's another part of it. In Evolve, we teach teams work. You learn from each other. We tell the teams, we say, you form these teams and you're all going to have different ideas. And of course, we still learn from each other at our old age. And I think that's a critical part of our lives. It's keeping the mind challenging. It's challenging is also a benefit for your health, for your good health.
And I think that's a unique thing, and it probably speaks to the two of you winning these awards and being honored, is just the fact that you have this mentality of, I'm here to learn too. You're not like here just to share your wisdom and like not get feedback and not have this loop. Like you want to be in the middle of it and learn.
I've published a fair amount, but none of that was ever the last word, or never was ever intended to be a last word. A lot of times it's work in progress, and you want to hear back, They say, because of that, you get to talk to some people, and they maybe show you some data or talk about what they've seen, and that's how we all learn. That's how we learn as a community.
Yeah. Mike, you said something how geology and geophysics have always been connected and always involved, and the two of you have attended many SEG meetings, many AAPG meetings before this happened of Image here. So when you look at this floor now and this combined conference with both of you, I mean, I know you're both involved in both associations, but a little your respective associations right now. Like when you look at Image now, what does that bring up to you?
It's changed over the years, as I think I mentioned back when I started in, say, the 1980s. We had a floor of this size just for geology, and a lot of it was logging trucks and people purveying log library memberships and different things. It's different now. In the combined show, I would say the geophysics gets the limelight of pretty stuff on the floor and money being spent, but that kind of reflects a lot of the industry. And But as we say, that both geology and geophysics are so closely woven now that even before we joined forces for image, there was a lot of geophysics on the floor at AAPG. So joining is both efficient and a very good thing in that regard. So it's this particular place. It doesn't take the place, particularly for geology. We have strong sections and regions, and a lot of what we do is basin specific. So if you want to do Gulf of Mexico, Gulf Coast, we have a section. If you've got other things, if you have Southwest section with the Permian Basin, and so on. So they're very strong, and we invite geologists and geophysicists to come that work in the basin to come. But the national here is more international, truly international, and sort of technique specific, and so that serves a great need from the geologist's point of view, and of course geophysics, it is the main meeting, and it always has been, and that's quite understandable. So it's an interesting marriage. It's somewhat different organizations, but I think we work together pretty well on this.
Yeah, I come to the image. A lot of it's just meeting old friends, by the way. Of course. And you get an overview of the industry by just walking the exhibit floor. It's hard for me to have the time to attend. They got 1,000 talks, papers. I keep asking, I want to know the top 20 so I know which talks to go see or go visit. But I actually prefer smaller meetings like now they call it GeoGulf in the Gulf Coast. GeoGulf. It's all those associations that merge, the Shreveport, Austin, Houston, Dallas, etc. And they have 2-day sessions, but there's only maybe 2 talks going on at the same time. I get more out of those meetings sometimes. It's 2 different meetings. But I guess you need both. You need both this big image and meeting.
Yeah, it's not an either or.
You need both.
Absolutely.
And you clearly both joined and are members of both associations. So before even this merge, you saw the value of how these 2 professional associations could support your career. Speaking of your career, is there something when you think about how you worked and how you approach your work, is there something that you hope this next generation coming up behind you preserves the way that you worked? And is there something you hope they leave behind?
Well, of course, they face a very different world than we had. AI is just the top of that. The ability to access vast amount of information with the challenge of then making sense of it in your own head. I think we'll spend more time and effort trying to make sense of things than we are to try to get information. And back when I started, and Mike, you're out scrounging for data. You'd spend 80% of your time pulling your logs together. And so it's a very, very different world. But I think a lot of the basics are still there, and I think we need to understand that we are a human enterprise. We are assisted by AI in many, many, many ways now, but we have to understand, and we have to conceive of things that haven't been conceived. That's the explorer's mindset, right? And when there really is that, what aren't we thinking about here that could be so important? Humans got to do that. I don't know AI is going to make that one, but it'll help us.
It's going to be different in the future. Like I've had a 37-year career with Shell. Jobs come and go nowadays. People, companies buy and sell, especially independents, staff reductions. Plus, you really have to have a multidisciplinary education to some extent, because you have to go where the jobs are. And sometimes you have to say, I had a little bit of that in school. Maybe I ought to learn more, and maybe there's job opportunities there. So it's definitely going to be different in the next 10 or 20 years for the for the young people, for the college graduates.
What is a question, like what if you were talking to an Evolve team member or a young person, a student comes up to you, what is a question you would pose to them that they should be asking right now?
Just how committed am I? Or should I be committed, I guess. But really, how flexible am I guess, in a way, but also what are my core values in things? I think that varies quite widely. And I think, to me, and this is just personal opinion, there's kind of a path appointed very often, and you have to think about what's true to your values. A story of that, when I finished my doctorate in Vancouver, and I needed a job, obviously, different things, and I got an offer from Exxon Production Research in those days, and I got an offer from the Bureau of Economic Geology. And Exxon was probably 2 to 3 times more money.
It always is.
Of course, in a year or two, I might have been on the street, but well, never mind that. But I went with the Bureau mostly because I needed to be more human. Having come from a very intense doctorate program, I needed to find out what it was I really liked to do and be exposed to the variety of things that we had at a state survey research institution. And I never regretted that. Sorry, Exxon.
Curiosity is a big word. I think the people who really do well in life are people who are curious and start to ask questions. Why this? Why that? Why does this work? Why? Also, we call it critical thinking and evolve. It's just using all the data, think about all the different alternate interpretations that could happen. Sometimes you have all these alternate interpretations. You drill the well, and it's still something different. And so I think the people who succeed in life are the ones that have that curiosity. It could be any discipline, by the way. It's not just geophysical geology. It could be any discipline.
Yeah.
It keeps their mind going and asking questions, and they keep learning and learning and learning.
Do you think all of the career paths, like Exxon, for example, if you're someone who's curious, Mike, one thing that came to mind was like, am I having fun? Is this fun? Like, I think that could play into it. Is that something, if you are like focused on curiosity and fun and trying, is Exxon a place you could do that? Or maybe are some other paths more amenable to that philosophy? Or is that knowable?
I think there's very many paths, and in a sense, a lot of times you can't always do it, but you should try to grow where you're planted, And so you wind up even in a fairly small independent, there's still pathways to improve yourself, to gain more education, more experience, and really move them towards sometimes being able to participate in a public mode or in a research conference or something of that sort. I was very blessed to have that with our group at Venus. And not all groups are that way, and of course you may have to hop around a little bit and find the right fit, but I think you need to be using the best of what you have, increasing your own skills and confidence, and making those jumps strategically that can improve you as a person and as a scientist and as a person in the industry.
One thing maybe to discuss is there are less students today interested in geoscience.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that. I think it was too tied to the oil industry. Maybe that was a factor.
Yeah.
But the geoscience is a very broad area, very broad. Now the oil industry pays the most. Maybe that's part of it. But I think that I know of universities who have scaled back their geoscience programs. Some have even almost shut down some courses because they don't have enough student applications. I know AAPG Foundation is trying to revive that. I think it's public knowledge they're giving $100,000 to university. $50,000 would go to the faculty, and $50,000 would go for then scholarships. So, and that's going to be a big part of their fundraising program that AAPG Foundation has now. I think it is coming back, though. I think I have seen more interest in geoscience in the last year or two. I think the fact that the oil industry has also returned in the last year or two, and that has made a difference.
Yeah. So for the last question, you both will be awarded tonight at the SUG and AAPG Honors and Awards ceremonies this evening. What is it going to feel like to walk across that stage and hear the applause and take this award and then turn to face the crowd and share some words?
It's very moving to be on stage and look out over all your friends, the ones you know you have and the ones you didn't but came to. And I've done it before, obviously, had a few other awards along the way, but it's always an important time to, as I say, to bond the community, and that's really why people should go to the honors and awards ceremonies and opening sessions, even if they don't know the people. And so I'm always honored and grateful.
It's a great honor, of course, to receive these high awards. They're giving me 2 minutes to give a speech, so then I have to you don't want to run over. So then I'm trying to say you got to be very succinct with your words. but you also wanted to make it enjoyable. And by the way, I'm going to have family members there tonight, so I want to make sure I recognize that they're there. And so I've been thinking about the last couple of days how to. 2 minutes is not very much time.
Moves along, yeah.
And so I even got out the overall stopwatch on my phone a couple of times to see if I can do it in 2 minutes. I may have to still change it. But yeah, it's a great honor, and a lot of friends there, of course, a lot of people I've worked with. And I'm sure there'll probably be some students there tonight, and I'll have about half my family will be there tonight. So it's a real honor to receive these awards.
And like you said, Tom, it's really, I love going to those award ceremonies. It really is just a nice way to celebrate, but it's inspiring and it's fun. And just to see people at the top of your field getting awarded, it is really nice. So I appreciate the two of you joining the podcast today. I appreciate sharing your wisdom and insight, and congratulations on the respective awards.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me here on Inside Image. The conversations you've heard today capture the energy, ambition, and collaborative spirit that make Image such a vital gathering for our community. Be sure to catch our highlight episodes, social media clips, and post-event recap, extending the best moments far beyond this week. I'm Andrew Gary. Thanks for listening, and here's to the innovations ahead.